for a brief moment, Niklas Stolze. So I don't know if you knew that's how you say it, Stolze, and it's Niklas, like not Niklas Stolze. He's a German fighter, man, and he was in the co-main spot for like 30 minutes until his opponent, Munir Lazez, over there fighting out of Morocco. I think it was a visa issue or something like that. So the fight got pulled. He gets bumped down, and he has arguably a tougher opponent on his hand in the Nite train, Jared Gooden, man. This is a dude who's got serious pop in his punch. But Niklas Stolze, the Green Mask, right? Interesting nickname. It's because he wore a green mask once and they just, gave it to him or whatever. But this dude's slick, man. He can fight very fluidly out of both stances, and he has real grappling chops, which I'm about to bring up. But nonetheless, Stolze, he opens up as a plus 170 underdog, which is interesting to me, with the minus 200 favorite in Jared Gooden, who took this fight on what? 5 days notice, 4 days notice. Like, he just took the fight like yesterday or the day before. So this is going to be interesting. I think it's interesting that Stolze is an underdog in this matchup. And this is a welterweight contest, man. So let's talk about it really quickly, AJ. 12-4 is Stolze. 17-6 is Jared Gooden. I know you're a fan of Jared Gooden, so just give the people the little synopsis on what you personally like about Jared Gooden going into this fight, even though it's short notice for him.
Man, even though it's short notice for him, I really like Jared Gooden because he stays slick and stays calm. Very fast hands, very good head movement. This dude is a brawler. Not even just a brawler, excuse me. This dude is a slick brawler. He will piece you up and not be there for you to hit. He's one of those few very athletic guys who has mastered the pull, where you're throwing shots, he can pull back and come in. It's very athletic move, man. I really like Jared Gooden for how fast his hands are. We're gonna see how well he matches up with Stolze, in how good Stolze is and how much stuff Stolze has in his tool belt. Because I do think that he's a little overmatched. Jared Gooden's a little overmatched going into Stolze this match going forward, specifically because he doesn't have as much stuff to depend on. He doesn't have the ground game. He doesn't have the wrestling chops as much as Stolze does. But Jared Gooden has, like I said, very slick striking and a hell of a right hand. Got to watch out for him. He's very, very good. And what I like about him too, he's a little cocky. He's a little, he keeps the hands down. It might have just been in the last fight against Abu Bakr because he was defending the takedowns. But man, he stays slick and he stays confident. And that head movement keeps rolling. It's a really good fighter out of Jared Gooden. I'm excited for this one. What's your takeaway, Derek?
Well, for Jared Gooden, basically everything you said is on par. I do like, the biggest thing I like about him is how relaxed he is when he's fighting. There's no tensing up, trying to, no, he's very relaxed. And I think that's what allows him to be so durable in terms of his chin, man. Because against Abu Bakr, man, he was getting rocked. He was getting pieced up. And listen, so here's one very cool stat that I like about Jared the Night Train Gooden, man. He has never been finished. He fights in 170 pounds, excuse me. He's never been finished by a welterweight ever. The only time he's been finished was by a middleweight. So it had to be someone who weighed more than him, a bigger type situation, or he probably went up in weight or whatever, but not in his natural weight class. That's the only person who's been able to finish him. I don't have the name off the top of my head, but nonetheless, AJ, that's very impressive, right? To just say like, okay, we got a real gamer here, a real durable dude. And you're right. Jared Gooden might not have all the same tools to be able to contend with Stolze in this matchup, but I'll tell you what, he has the number one equalizer, which is that one-shot KO power, man. That's something that Stolze does not have, in my opinion. I think he's more of a volume guy. He's more of let's look at it. He has 4 knockouts, 5 submissions, 3 decisions. When we're talking about Jared Gooden, though, 7 knockouts, 6 submissions, 4 decisions. So it'll be interesting. And I would really like to see Jared Gooden's BJJ repertoire or whatever the case, because he is a brown belt, believe it or not. He just likes to rely on the big punches. Now, when we're talking about striking, right, we would clearly, I think for me and you both, would you agree that Gooden has the advantage on the feet?
I'd say he has the advantage in the hands. Stolze has really nice kicks, really nice kicks. That's what I like about him. And he's so tall and he's able to switch stances that you don't know when those kicks are coming. When you have somebody that's constantly switching stances, you don't know if it's a switch kick or if he's just switching stances. So I'd give the advantage to Gooden in the hands, but Stolze in the feet. And as far as overall striking, I don't know. That's a toss-up for me. What do you think?
Well, so what I was going to allude to is that on paper, you would kind of look at it and you'd be like, oh, yeah, Gooden probably got striking advantage. Stolze, yeah, we'll probably go grappling and all that. No, man. Stolze, he is, let's look at it, 17-3 as a professional kickboxer, man. So I have his style down. He's a kickboxer and a BJJ guy, right? Where Jared Gooden, really, he's just a big striker, man. You know, that's what he relies on. That's his bread and butter. So that's like the tricky part about it. So let me just ask you, man, because we're talking about this, we're really breaking it down. Why do you think the odds makers see it as minus 200 for Jared Gooden? If we're over here, we're talking about he has more of a well-rounded game than Gooden does. Do they really believe in his power? What do you think?
No, I think it's just because in Stoltz's last fight, he's supposed to be, the more well-rounded guy, the kind of the grappler, and he got dominated. Well, maybe not dominated, but he got controlled pretty good in the Amib fight. And I definitely think it's a recency bias, whereas Jared Gooden, when you see him, he's this very imposing dude. Very strong, very big. Like I said, likes to keep those hands fast and has knockout power, where Stoltz is really less imposing, less scary of a fighter, very tall, very long, kind of like an old Alexander Gustafsson, or not Gustafsson, the skyscraper. What's his name?
Stefan Struve.
Struve, thank you. Like an old Stefan Struve, where he's not really that scary, but he's very, very tall and dominant. He's very sharp right hand down the pipe, which I like from Stolze, but I definitely think it's not necessarily as powerful as Gooden. So that's why I think they're giving the advantage, or at least the dog weight to Gooden going forward in this one. Why do you think they're doing it, Derek?
I don't know, dude. Honestly, I think it's probably just that, like the optics. Honestly, just because Stolze, in all of my film study, I just think he's much more well-rounded. He's the better fighter overall. And when we're talking about fluidity in your striking, he could fight. Like I said earlier, he could fight very well out of both stances. Hit you with a million kicks. He hit you with crazy combos, man. One of his favorite combinations he likes to throw is the flying knee. So he'll hit you with the, you know what I'm saying, the jab straight, head kick, or right straight, flying knee, jump into all types of crazy maneuvers. But let's just talk about the other equalizer Jared Gooden has. He's an athlete, man. He's very, very athletic. So I want to ask you about this when it comes down to it. Both of these dudes have very good takedown defense. So Jared Gooden, if you recall, he was actually able to stuff 4 out of 5 takedowns from Abubakar Nurmagomedov, which is a huge statistic. Now for Stolze, he was able to get up pretty easily every time he got taken down by Ramazan Emeev, right, who's a legit high-level wrestler. So both of these dudes have really good takedown defense. Both of these dudes clearly can do a lot of different things very well, but do you think Gooden is the better athlete? And then answer that one, and then let's go into our picks after that and how that weighs into your pick.
Yeah, I would agree. It seems like Jared Gooden is the better natural athlete as far as, how he's just looking out there. He's real calm. He stays slick. His fluidity is there in what you see all the other athletes that perform in going forward. Whereas Stolze, he's not as not stiff necessarily, but he's a little more jittery if I had to put a word on it. So as far as if that goes into my picks, not necessarily. I definitely think this one's going to be a very interesting match, and I think it's a lot closer than minus 200 to plus 170 for the Stolze, just because we got a very slick boxer versus a very nice kickboxer. Stolze has a lot in his tool belt going forward, but I do give the power advantage to Gooden. I think if this becomes a technical battle, Stolze is going to be looking real good in those late rounds, where if this is a dog fight, I give the advantage to Gooden. Maybe you can, lean that one on his athleticism because he's able to get the better of each single exchanges, especially early on. But for me personally, I'm going to give my pick right away. I'm going Stolze by decision. I think he's going to be able to maintain that range, piece Gooden up from the outside, and really hurt him with the kicks. We saw in Gooden's last fight, he did get rocked a couple times, and I think Stolze is going to be bringing some heat, hot and heavy. Who you got and why, Derek?
Well, one thing that I did want to note just lastly before I give my pick is I think it's a very fair assessment of what you're talking about. These fighters are combined 0-3 in the UFC, so I think that's an added element to where both of these dudes really want to earn their first UFC win, and we're going to talk about that more in the next matchup as well. So I think that can kind of sway the fight style of both of these fighters, but at the end of the day, I'm going to have to go my pick. I'm going to go Niklas Stolze, and the reason why I'm going that is because I think that the grappling chops are just going to be too much personally. We haven't seen Jared Gooden really lean on his grappling yet. He didn't do it against Abubakar. So I envision Niklas Stolze somehow getting into a crazy scramble. Like I'm talking about, his scrambles are so slick. Like it looks straight out of like a BJJ match. It doesn't look like it's an MMA match or MMA BJJ, right? So because of the slickness of his scrambles, I think he's going to be able to get that arm underneath the chin of Jared Gooden, put him to sleep, rear naked choke. I'm going to go submission round 2 on that one, man. Hopefully not, because I think this also could have fight of the night written all over it as well, but we'd have to go all 3 3 for that to happen, I think, personally, man. But I'm going the underdog on this one, man. The dude who's got just a little more of the well-rounded game. So let's move on to the next one, AJ.